We want to start with Russia, though, very quickly. What do you make of the fact that Vladimir Putin, he tests an underwater nuclear drone, and then the president says he wants to restart testing, basically saying that the U.S. is in the lead when it comes to nuclear power right now, but he's worried about that slipping away. Is that something realistically he should be worried about, and should he be competing with Putin over this?
We don't know exactly what Putin's doing, but we actually don't know exactly what President Trump had in mind. According to the reports, which have come in through the night, a lot through NBC and its affiliates and sources, is that many in the administration seem to have been caught by surprise by that announcement. It's been, I think, since 1992, 1993, since we did such testing. Right behind me here, could point to a picture of my lifelong friend, the late Ash Carter, who had friend for 55 years, who was former Secretary of Defense, had a lot to do with putting a freeze on that further testing. And we need to know what that is and what that means. It's very, unsafe. We're pretty far ahead, but of course, the best thing of all was to halt the nuclear proliferation on top of the testing. And we're seeing that there's some risks of proliferation with the relationships between North Korea and Russia and elsewhere.
All right, I want to get to the U.S.-China relationships. Jeff, you gave us a list of pros and cons from the meeting with Xi Jinping and Trump. You got a lot of them here. I want to start with one of the pros that you see, the fact that they plan to meet again. The president saying he wants to go to China in April. Why is that such a pro? Why wouldn't it have been better if they just kind of settled all these things before? Why is it good that they have to continue talking?
Frank, that's good. I'm glad you took a look at the pros and cons, because this is a nuanced, a balanced scorecard here. And there are advocates on each side that are willing to either to condemn or celebrate as cheerleaders. David Solomon yesterday, the CEO of Goldman Sachs, wisely pointed out the relationship hasn't been good for some time. And here you have what 1.4 billion people, 15% of the world's population. It's maybe over 20% of our trade. It's the third largest trading partner, $700 billion trillion dollars to trade. We need to do a much better job of managing this relationship, and the idea of at least addressing some critical issues, such as these rare earth minerals, that we didn't talk about this a lot enough with the last administration, the port controls, and the idea of meeting in April is a good idea. At least we have a conversation going, and I think David Solomon of Goldman is right on that part, but there are some problems here too.
Yeah, I mean, despite the fact the president says that he likes Xi Jinping, certainly the tensions have continued, and there's been a lot of back and forth and ups and downs. So I want to go to one.
First time in 6 years, I believe they've actually had in-depth conversations face to face. So that's encouraging. Conversation is always a good thing, and many, but not all, the critical issues have been on the table now.
Okay, so one big pro right there. But you say it's a con that they didn't really talk about. Export controls on semiconductors, specifically the Blackwell chip. I know the president said that's not going to happen, but why is it a con that they didn't really discuss it?
Well, it's interesting that you actually opened up the show, and good for you, Frank, for talking about what Jensen Huang just said minutes ago live. By the way, he's been working completely through the night. His schedule's almost as bad as yours. And he, as he said and admitted he was exhausted in saying this, is that he still wants to sell the Blackwell chip into China. Well, there's some uncertainty there. He said it depends on President Trump getting the permission, and Trump was pointing back to Jensen Huang. So there's some ambiguity. What happens with the Blackwell chip? There are other military-grade chips, something which is never discussed, but perhaps some of your viewers might be hearing this for the first time. We've actually done the research in conjunction with the Keefe School of Economics just to see where a lot of these military-grade chips coming into Russia are coming from. Where are they coming from? People are saying, oh, it's Turkey, or it's Hungary, or it's Uzbekistan. There are some things coming in that way where they'll smack on some chips as replacement chips on appliances and pretend that they're not military grade, but they are. However,
wait,
it's
Jeff,
coming
before we
in
get to the
primarily
however,
through China.
I want to ask you one other question, because I get your point on that somehow some of this advanced technology could be making its way to some people that we may see as our adversaries, or at least national security officials may be concerned about. One last question. Xi Jinping, still in Asia, meeting with a lot of other Asian countries. One of the headlines out there is he says he wants to keep supply chains stable. Of course, this is following his meeting with the president. How do you take that? How does that, I guess, color your opinion of the meeting between the two of them, that Xi Jinping is kind of on a charm offensive? He's having a dinner with a Netflix chef. He's listening to a K-pop artist. It certainly seems to be charm, that his tactic with other Asian nations. What does that mean exactly?
Well, that is worrisome. This is why David Scissors of the American Enterprise Institute said yesterday this was a big waste of time, that we've not come forward on anything from where we were at Trump 1.0. They didn't properly live up to any of their agreements on tech transfer, on a lot of supply chain issues, on forced tech transfer, on intellectual property issues, on the grain purchases that were supposed to happen, 200 billion. It didn't happen, and they promised it before. So this is an issue, but also, as has been pointed out, it's tough to take on, a huge trading partner like this, world's second largest economy or whatever, and we don't have allies around with us. So as you take a look at deals that China is setting up right now with Malaysia and elsewhere, you worry. And also on the energy front, we don't know right now. There's no discussion about them still buying Russian oil and what that means. There's a lot of concern about other, relationships through the rest of the world. The TikTok deal, of course, we don't know where that's going to go.
Yeah, we don't know where that's going.
Taiwan, that wasn't discussed about the security of Taiwan and things. So there are many things
that
are
issues up in the air. A lot of issues up in the air. Just Sonnenfeld,
basically, President Trump did not act like a bull in a china shop. He can be disruptive as a strength and a weakness. In this case, he did not break to China, and that's a good thing in China.